The Seventh Amendment, right to trial by jury in federal civil cases. Born from the colonial experience of arbitrary government power, this amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in federal civil cases where the value in controversy shall exceed $20. The roots of civil jury trials extend back to the Magna Carta of 1215, which established that no free man shall be captured or imprisoned or disseised of his freehold or of his liberties, nor will we proceed against him by force or go against him by means of royal officials, except according to the lawful judgment of his peers or according to the law of the land. The Seventh Amendment to the United States Constitution stands as one of the most historically significant yet practically overlooked provisions in the Bill of Rights. This foundational principle of trial by one's peers became deeply embedded in English common law and was later carried to the American colonies. The amendment's more immediate origins trace back to fundamental tensions between colonial Americans and British rule. The suspension of jury trials was among the grievances listed in the Declaration of Independence against King George III. The colonists viewed jury trials not merely as a procedural safeguard, but as a cornerstone of Republican government, a way for ordinary citizens to check governmental and judicial power, continuing the tradition established centuries earlier in the Magna Carta. As John Adams described the jury's role in government, as the Constitution requires that the popular branch of the legislature should have an absolute check, so as to put a peremptory negative upon every act of the government, it requires that the common people should have as complete a control, as decisive a negative, in every judgment of a court of judicature. The Seventh Amendment reads, "In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law." When the Constitution was first drafted, it included provisions for jury trials in criminal cases, but omitted protections for civil matters. This omission became a rallying point for anti-Federalists during the ratification debates, who argued that without jury trials in civil cases, citizens would be at the mercy of potentially biased federal judges. James Madison, responding to these concerns, introduced 19 proposed amendments to the Constitution in 1789. Congress sent 12 to the states for ratification, and 10 of these became the Bill of Rights, including the Seventh Amendment. The amendment's language was carefully crafted to preserve existing common law tradition while establishing clear federal standards. The $20 threshold was not arbitrary. In 1791, $20 represented substantial purchasing power, equivalent to several $100s today. This amount ensured that the right to jury trial would apply to significant disputes while preventing the federal court system from being overwhelmed by trivial cases. This dollar value has never been changed, creating a paradox. While the Constitution guarantees jury trials for disputes over $20, federal law requires the disputed amount exceed $75,000 for most cases to be heard in federal court under diversity jurisdiction. This reflects the realities of administering a federal court system in a vastly different economic landscape than existed in 1791, but leaves the law open to challenge given the difference between the Constitution's $20 standard and federal statute's $75,000 requirement. Federal courts have limited jurisdiction, meaning they may render judgment on only limited areas of law. The Constitution lists specific types of cases that federal courts may decide, and gives Congress power to assign other areas. The Seventh Amendment applies to lawsuits a federal court may hear under constitutional or congressional grants of jurisdiction. Diversity jurisdiction allows cases to be filed in federal court when there is complete diversity between parties, no plaintiff may be from the same state as any defendant, and the amount in controversy exceeds $75,000 as defined in the United States Code of Laws. Civil cases settle disputes between private parties and claims for money damages, while criminal trials determine if an individual has committed an act prohibited by law and are prosecuted by the government. The Seventh Amendment guarantees jury trials in federal civil cases, but does not apply to state courts. The amendment preserves the traditional distinction between common law and equity. Common law cases, typically involving monetary damages, fall under the amendment's protection and are decided by juries. Equity cases, which seek injunctive relief or other non-monetary remedies, are typically decided by judges alone. This distinction continues to influence how courts approach civil disputes today. The jury's common law role was to determine the facts of a case by deciding what evidence was believable. The Seventh Amendment preserved that role, which remains in place today. Juries decide the facts and apply the law as instructed by the judge, though they retain the controversial power of jury nullification, deciding a case contrary to the judge's instruction. Jury nullification remains one of the most controversial aspects of the American jury system. While juries possess this inherent power, courts generally do not inform jurors of their ability to nullify laws they consider unjust. Critics argue that nullification undermines the rule of law, while supporters contend it serves as a crucial check on government power and unjust laws. Unlike most Bill of Rights provisions, the Seventh Amendment has never been applied to state courts through the 14th Amendment's Incorporation doctrine. The Supreme Court ruled in Minneapolis and St. Louis Railroad Company v. Bombolas, 1916, that states are not constitutionally required to provide jury trials in civil cases. Despite this lack of federal requirement, 49 states have chosen to guarantee civil jury trial rights in their own constitutions. Louisiana stands as the notable exception, reflecting its unique civil law tradition inherited from French colonial rule. The Seventh Amendment remains highly relevant in contemporary legal practice. It serves as a crucial protection against government overreach and ensures that citizen participation remains central to the administration of justice. The amendment's importance has been highlighted in recent decades by debates over mandatory arbitration clauses, class action procedures, and increasingly complex civil litigation. As more disputes are resolved through alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, the Seventh Amendment preserves the fundamental right to have one's case heard by a jury of peers. The Seventh Amendment represents more than a mere procedural requirement. It embodies a fundamental principle of Republican government. In an era of increasing mistrust about institutional power, the amendment's guarantee of citizen participation in the administration of justice remains vital. Engage in the battle against constitutional illiteracy by hitting the like button, sharing this video, and subscribing to Constitutional Soundbites to explore the essential rights and laws that guide our republic.